Welcome to Voices of Privacy. Today we are excited to have somebody who's going to talk to us about protecting your messaging apps. Kee Jefferys, who is the technical co-founder of Session. Welcome to Voices of Privacy.
Welcome. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, we appreciate your time. And I think we're just going to jump into it. Everyone uses these messaging apps, right? A lot of people don't think they have anything to hide. So why do you think privacy in messaging is important to everyday people?
Well, I think it's, just in the same way that we have curtains and doors on our houses, I think we should have encryption and strong metadata protection for our messaging applications. It's not necessarily that you have something to hide. It's just that it feels kind of intrusive for people to be looking at your messages, analyzing the metadata around your messages to be able to work out who you're communicating with, when, and what types of people you communicate with. It feels kind of yucky to have an intrusion of privacy in that way. So, the same way that I close my curtains when I get home, so people can't see into my house, I feel like we should be using encrypted messaging tools to kind of hide our privacy and metadata when we use those. So I don't think it's that we have anything to hide. I think it's more just to feel secure in our communications.
We use a similar analogy where we say, so you go home at night and you leave all the doors open and put all the cash on the table, and you're fine if 50 people are following the bottom. I didn't say that. So then it starts to come. So for France.
What makes it different from WhatsApp, which is very, well known, or Signal, or even Telegram?
I usually break it down on 3 different levels. So, like comparing to other messaging applications, the first thing that Session does differently from other messaging applications is that it doesn't require a phone number to sign up. So when you sign up for WhatsApp or Signal or Telegram, you're typically putting in your phone number, you're receiving an SMS verification, and that's the basis for your account. So that has security implications. So we use our phone number as the basis for identity in a lot of these kind of online messaging systems, and then also outside in a lot of kind of account systems that we sign up for. So it's a security issue to use the phone number as the basis for your, messaging security. And it's also a privacy concern as well, because we use phone numbers across so many different accounts. We have them linked to our Google account, our Facebook account. We may have our phone number listed against our business or be sharing it with a bunch of different people in our lives. And because we're using it in so many different places, it ends up linking back to our real world identity, which means that if someone knows that you're using, one of these services with your phone number, they instantly get a lot of data about you as a person who's using that service. So instead, Session generates this random identity on the network, which essentially is a public-private key pair, which is used for encryption as well. And that's a much more secure system in terms of encryption and privacy than just relying on the phone number as the basis for an account. So that's the first thing that Session does. The second thing Session does is that it uses a decentralized network instead of a centralized network to store and route messages in the network. So if you think about, say, Signal or WhatsApp or Telegram, they typically have a centralized server. And when you send a message to another user, you're depositing that message to that server. And when someone receives a message from you, they're talking to that server and saying, hey, do you have any messages for me? And then those messages are sent back, where a lot of sensitive data about communications is held and becomes a risk from a hacking perspective. So if any of these centralized companies are breached, all of that data is held on, a group of centralized servers. That data can then be extracted and used to work out who's communicating to who, when, and the groups that are the groups in the social graph that are involved in conversations. So instead of using a centralized server, Session uses a group of nodes, which are run by community members. There's around 1,500 nodes all around the world in different jurisdictions. So you don't have that single central server problem where if one server gets compromised or a group of centralized servers which hold the same security levels get compromised, then all of the messages are extracted. Instead, you have to kind of go and compromise a bunch of different servers all around the world with different security policies.
These community members, they're like volunteers and they like host one of the places where the messages go?
Yeah, so they're kind of it's a volunteer network, but there is a financial incentive that's backed by a like cryptocurrency or a blockchain network where you have to stake a certain amount of financial value to run one of those nodes in the network. And then your node is kind of tied to that financial value. So if you perform poorly in the network, that financial value can be taken away from you. So there's kind of an economic system backing the network as well to try and preserve privacy to a higher level. And then also like make sure that the performance on the network is also reaching a certain level. So yeah, that's the kind of decentralized side. And then the third thing that Session does differently is it actually uses something called onion routing to route all of your messages on the network. So, some people would be familiar with the concept of a VPN. That's essentially a technology that you can turn on, and instead of talking directly with your IP address, which is essentially a unique number, which is assigned to you by your internet service provider, to the server, you actually kind of bounce your connection through a third party, and then it's that third party that communicates with the server. So it hides your IP address. Session kind of goes a step further than a VPN and adds additional hops to this routing protocol. So it's a stronger privacy guarantee than even a VPN because you kind of have 3 different hops in different locations before that final hop goes out to the network and deposits your message or retrieves your message for you. So it hides a critical piece of metadata, which a lot of kind of centralized messaging applications don't deal with very well right now. So those are the 3 kind of things that I draw out when I'm talking about Session, but it also has all of the kind of basic levels of privacy and security that most messaging applications have these days.
Thank you. I think maybe some of our audience may be interested in how do we access this? How available is it?
Yeah, so Session is available on the App Store, the Google Play Store, and on desktop as well. So Mac, Linux, and Windows.
Mhm.
So we've tried to build an application which is cross-platform as much as possible because people want to be able to send messages from their laptop and then also have that conversation synced on their phone and be able to chat on all of their devices and keep that kind of conversation synced between those devices. So that's been a big focus of what Session has been looking at. So we're rolled out on all of those platforms, ready to use. And we're at the point where we're past 1 million monthly active users as well. So we've got quite a few users that are on Session, but it's still kind of small potatoes when compared to, Telegram and WhatsApp, which are over 1 billion users at this point. So, we've got a long way to grow, but I think we're doing well in terms of private messaging applications.
So it's interesting that you decided that, to do privacy apps. Do you foresee more apps focused on privacy that are going to happen in the next few years?
I think we will. And I think the reason is because a lot of bigger companies now are starting to focus on privacy as one of their core selling points. I think as data breaches have increased year on year, and everyone seems to be tangled up in at least one of these data breaches, whether it's telecom providers or healthcare providers that are accidentally leaking people's data or being targeted by hackers, I think people are becoming more aware of the privacy issue. And, we've seen kind of some larger companies like Apple in their marketing materials talking a lot about privacy. So I think consumers are becoming more aware of it. It's hard to kind of trade off user experience and privacy sometimes. So I think the apps which are going to be successful are the ones that are able to deliver a very strong user experience while also maintaining the privacy of their users. And I think that hasn't necessarily been the case with some of these early emerging technologies. It's really about balancing those 2 factors and making sure that you're kind of delivering both so that the consumer doesn't have to trade off their user experience for an increased level of privacy. So yeah, I think we'll see a bit of a convergence.
We want to thank you for being with us, and we really do want to wish you the best successes with the Session app because we know that everybody needs to have more privacy, and we know everybody's going to keep using messaging of one form or another in the future, as we all do.
Kee, I'm absolutely looking it up and downloading it. I'm going to be a millionth one, and I want to share this. We teach hundreds of students. Is there a cost to this?
Yeah, 100%. Well, there isn't a cost to downloading Session, but I would encourage you to share it with as many people as possible. Session's free right now in all of the app stores and on desktop. In terms of like business model, what we're thinking is that we'll kind of use the freemium model. So you have, 97% of users using Session for free. There's going to be a portion of users that are power users, and those users will be able to access additional features for a monthly kind of price. And that will be stuff like cosmetic features, animated profile pictures and that kind of things, that increased file sizes. And I think that model's been quite successful before, at least in the case of Telegram. But yeah, we'll always maintain a free tier for Session.
Yeah, no, I mean, within marketing, it's upselling, right? And it's the accessory world. And it's kind of like how you do that virtually. And, there's so many different platforms that have done it really, really successfully. So I think that's just brilliant. It really does. And then use those power users as brand ambassadors or influencers for it, right? So, well, I want to definitely look and look at it. Like Franz, this has really been eye-opening. I feel like we're on the cutting edge, and that's what we love to do. We love privacy literacy for all. And thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.